Today I want to answer the question, why use acupressure to change brain physiology? All right. Why use acupressure rather than chemicals? Why use acupressure rather than exercises? Well, I would say more than a question of why not either or. First, we should look at blood flow. Okay, acupressure is really just a means of stimulating blood flow. And if you can increase blood flow, you can increase cell activity. Okay? So imagine for a second a muscle. Imagine you're working out, okay? You go to the gym and you're working out, you're pumping iron, but your muscles can't increase the blood flow that they receive. What happens to the muscle? Well, not a whole lot. You can probably lift weights for a little bit, but it would be really hard to develop that muscle, to grow that muscle, and for that muscle to recover after it was used. Okay? So, understanding that just a little bit, I mean, we're not going way deep into this, but imagine now a brain, okay, an area of your brain that can't get sufficient blood flow. How well is that going to function? And when it's trying to function, how well is it going to do its job if it can function? Probably not that great. So that becomes the objective for someone like me, is how do I increase blood flow to a very specific area of the brain? And that's why I choose acupressure. Acupressure can allow you or give you the ability to isolate individual groups of cells and stimulate blood flow directly to those areas. Okay? So this is also why I would use acupressure with, in most of my cases, before I use chemicals and exercise. I want to make sure that the cells themselves are able to get what they need naturally before I do extra things for them, okay? Because those other things to me are supplemental, but first I want to make sure the cell is working the way it's supposed to, getting the nutrients it needs so that it can develop properly. Okay? So how does acupressure work then? Acupressure is a very natural self-regulating mechanism that our body produces on its own, and we don't even realize it because we don't call it acupressure. We call it itching, scratching, rubbing, holding, touching, but all of those are basically forms of acupressure. They're just done a little bit differently because we don't know what we're doing. But our brain knows what it wants us to do. So for example, when you get, let's say, a bug bite, because I've got a couple bug bites from walking by this river. And so they itch. Okay? What does that itch mean? Well, that itch means that something has invaded our body, okay, some kind of toxin or something, and our body, our brain, registers that as being invasive and says, hey, we got to do something about this. We got to get rid of it. Well, one of the ways the body gets rid of things is through the blood and the circulatory system, right? So what do you start doing? Well, it starts itching, and so you naturally want to scratch it or rub it or something. You just want to touch it. What happens when you start scratching or rubbing or touching that little area that itches? What color does it turn? Purple? It turns red because you've just increased blood flow into that area. Why? Well, you increase blood flow in, you're increasing oxygen, water, minerals, nutrients into that area. At the same time, you've got cells in your blood that are taking hold of that toxin and getting rid of it. They're carrying it out of that area. So you're doing two things. You're getting rid of bad stuff and you're getting good stuff in through your blood. Okay? So it's a pretty amazing system. Okay? That's basically what acupressure is. But the more we go through those videos, I want to teach you guys how to be very intentional about where you're sending blood flow in your brain, because that's the goal for me, is how do we change the brain's physiology by increasing blood flow to those areas of the brain. Okay, so if you're ADHD, how do we increase blood flow to those logic areas of function in the brain to get proper blood flow, to get optimal functioning, to get normal functioning, so that you can then take those areas and apply exercise to them and get improvement. Okay?